How many times a day do you say it? Someone asks how you are, and without even thinking, you just say, "I'm fine." But what if that simple little phrase is actually one of the biggest traps we fall into? Today, we're going to talk about the truth behind denial and how to finally stop saying "I'm fine" when you're not.
So let's start with what we're calling the "I'm fine" illusion. It's that automatic response, right? It's our social default. But it's an illusion because so often it's just a mask for what's really going on just beneath the surface.
I mean, just let this quote sink in for a second. I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, but I'm not. I'm broken. How many of us have lived this? That moment where the words coming out of your mouth are the exact opposite of the feeling in your gut. This is denial. Layer 1. It's that simple, everyday mask we use to hide a much more complicated reality.
And here's something that's so important to understand. Denial is not just for huge, dramatic, life-altering addictions. The source material is really clear that this applies to any compulsive behavior that starts to get in the way of your life. We're talking about things like being addicted to your phone, right? Or the endless scrolling, that impulse to online shop, or maybe that deep-seated need to control every little thing around you. All of it can be a form of denial. But why do we do this? What is it about denial that makes it so incredibly hard to break free from? Let's really dig into the denial trap and try to understand why we get so stuck.
So looking at the definition from our source, denial is a false system of beliefs. But here's the part that I find so fascinating. It starts as a self-protecting behavior. It's not like we're trying to be dishonest. It's a coping mechanism we build to shield ourselves from a truth that just feels too big or too painful to look at head-on.
And this is where the dangerous twist happens. What begins as a shield, a way to protect yourself, eventually becomes a prison. That coping mechanism we thought was helping, it doesn't solve anything. It just walls us off from any real solution. And that's where we get stuck. We stagnate.
So, where does all this come from? Well, it really boils down to two things. It's either rooted in the pain of the past, old failures, old hurts that we just can't seem to shake, or it's a fear of the future. That absolute terror of the unknown, of what might happen if we actually admit we have a problem and have to, change.
You know that phrase, the elephant in the room? That is the perfect metaphor for denial. It's that massive, obvious truth that everybody can see, but nobody dares to talk about. And it ends up controlling everything. This connects to a really powerful idea from our source. You're only as sick as your secret. The very thing we are working so hard to hide is actually what's holding us captive.
So if denial is a secret, how do we hide it so well? Well, that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer, the 5 common masks we wear. These are the different faces of denial.
Okay, let's take a minute with this because I have a feeling one of these is going to sound familiar. First up, you've got the strong mask. You know this one. I've got this, everything's fine, but what it's hiding is fear, exhaustion, and hurt. And you can't heal because real healing requires surrender, not just more strength. Then there's the spiritual mask, which can hide a lot of shame and doubt behind a performance of faith. The busy mask. Man, I think we can all relate to this one. Just using constant activity to outrun pain or grief, when what you actually need is to be still. The happy mask, always smiling, can be covering up some deep depression or loneliness. And finally, the control mask, trying to manage every single outcome, which usually comes from a place of deep insecurity. The way out isn't more control, it's learning to trust.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? What once was used to protect us can eventually imprison us. Every single one of those masks, strong, spiritual, busy, happy, control, it starts out as a shield, but it always, always ends up as a cage. So we've seen the trap, we've seen the masks, and it can all feel a little heavy. But here's the good news. We don't have to stay stuck there. There is a really clear, practical path forward, and it's broken down into 4 steps.
All right, here they are. The path forward involves 4 big shifts. Step 1 is about radical honesty, admitting you're powerless over the problem. Step 2 is about ownership, accepting responsibility for your part. Step 3 is about humility, actually asking for help. And step 4 is about faith, surrendering control. Let's look a little closer at a couple of these.
Let's start with step 1, admitting you're powerless. Now that can sound terrifying, right? Like you have to wait for your life to completely fall apart. But I love this reframing. Your rock bottom isn't some horrible event. It's a decision. It is the moment you decide, okay, that's enough, and you put down the shovel and just stop digging the hole deeper. This GPS analogy is just brilliant for understanding why that first step is so critical. Think about it. A GPS is useless if it doesn't know where you are. It can't give you directions to where you want to go until it has your starting point. And it's the exact same for us. We can't move forward until we get brutally honest about where we are right now.
In this whole journey, it is not meant to be a solo mission, which brings us to step 3, asking for help. See, once we've admitted the truth to ourselves and taken responsibility for our piece of it, real healing starts when we bring it into community. Finding safe people to be honest with. That is how we really begin to surrender control and let other people in. That's where the work gets done. Okay, we've talked about the I'm fine illusion, the masks we wear, the steps to freedom. So what's the big takeaway here? How do you actually apply this? Well, it all comes down to asking yourself one honest question.
We have to come back to this central idea. You're only as sick as your secret. All the energy that we pour into hiding and denying and pretending, that is the very energy that keeps us stuck. But the flip side is just as true. The truth really will set you free.
So the first question we have to get quiet and ask ourselves, without any judgment, is simply this. What am I in denial about? Which mask am I wearing? What's the secret I'm so busy protecting?
And remember, this is not about fixing your entire life overnight. It's just about taking the next right step. So the final and maybe the most important question to leave you with is this one. What is one honest step, no matter how small, that you can take today to move out of denial and toward your own freedom?